Claire Thompson was not the kind of person who drew attention. She was quiet, soft-spoken, and always polite. Every day she arrived early at the small diner where she worked as a waitress. The diner was located in a little town, one of those places where everyone knew each other by name, and the days passed slowly like a gentle river. The diner was cozy but a little old-fashioned. It had a few wooden tables, some worn-out chairs, and a jukebox that still played songs from decades ago. The walls were decorated with pictures of the town's history, and in one corner stood an upright piano covered in dust. It was clear no one had played it in a very long time. Claire had been working at this diner for almost 3 years. She knew the regular customers, remembered their favorite orders, and always had a warm smile for them. She worked hard, often putting in long hours, sometimes 2 shifts a day to make ends meet. People liked her, but she didn't really open up much about her life. To most, she was just the friendly waitress who served coffee and pies with a gentle smile. The customers at the diner were a mix of town locals, some old, some young, and a few travelers passing through. There was Hank, the retired truck driver who came in every morning for black coffee and a sausage sandwich. He liked to sit at the same corner table and watch the world go by. Then there was Mrs. Wilson, who came in every afternoon with her little dog and a group of teenagers who stopped by after school. Everyone knew Claire, but no one really knew much about her. One thing people noticed was that Claire often hummed quietly when she worked. Sometimes it was a soft melody that seemed familiar, but no one ever asked her about it. They just smiled and thought it was nice. Once, Hank told her, "You got a voice like an angel, Claire. You ever think of singing somewhere?" Claire just smiled politely and said, "I'm no singer, Hank, just humming to keep myself busy." But there was a little mystery about Claire. Some of the younger waitresses wondered why she worked as a waitress when she seemed so graceful and calm. She walked with a natural elegance, and her hands moved with such care when she poured coffee or folded napkins. A few co-workers whispered that maybe Claire had dreams she had given up on. Some even said she looked like someone who had once been part of something bigger but had chosen a quiet life instead. One slow afternoon, the diner suddenly went dark. The power had gone out because of a storm outside. At first, the customers grumbled a little, worried about their food and drinks. The manager lit some candles and tried to keep things calm. Someone jokingly suggested they bring out the old piano and have a little music to pass the time. The piano had been there for years, untouched, and most people forgot it was even there. The manager looked at Claire and said, "Hey Claire, how about you play something to cheer everyone up?" It was meant as a joke, but everyone turned to look at her. Claire's eyes widened a bit. She hesitated. The idea of playing piano in front of all these people was scary. She had never done it here before, but something inside her said yes. She stood up, walked slowly to the piano, and brushed the dust off the keys with her hand. She sat down, took a deep breath, and started to play. The first notes were soft and gentle, like a quiet whisper. But, soon, the melody grew stronger and more beautiful. It was a song that touched the heart, full of emotion and memories. People stopped talking. The clinking of cups and plates faded away. Even the rain outside seemed to quiet down, as if nature itself was listening. Hank leaned forward in his chair, eyes wide with surprise. Mrs. Wilson held her dog still, mesmerized. The teenagers who had been joking moments before sat in stunned silence. The music filled the room, carrying feelings that words could never express. It was as if Claire's fingers spoke a secret language on the piano, one that told a story of hope, sadness, and beauty all at once. When Claire finished playing, the room was silent for a moment. Then suddenly applause erupted. Some customers stood up, clapping and cheering. Claire smiled shyly, blushing a little. She stood up, bowed her head slightly, and went back to her tables. She returned to pouring coffee and taking orders, but now the air in the diner felt different, alive with wonder. That night, a young customer who had been sitting near the piano took out his phone and recorded the entire performance. He posted the video online with the caption, "Waitress plays piano like a dream." Within hours, the video started to get views and comments from people all over the country. They were amazed. Who was this waitress with such a beautiful gift? How could someone hide such talent for so long? Back in the diner, life continued. But Claire's simple world had quietly begun to change. The piano performance had revealed a part of her that she kept hidden, and now, unknowingly, she had touched the hearts of many. The story of the quiet waitress with the brilliant piano skill was just beginning to unfold. After that evening in the diner when Claire surprised everyone by playing the piano beautifully during the power outage, things began to change slowly but surely. The memory of her music stayed in the minds of the customers, and the video of her performance started to travel far beyond the small town's borders. The video was uploaded by a teenager named Mark, who had been sitting near the piano when Claire played. Mark was a regular at the diner and loved capturing small moments on his phone. He never imagined that a simple recording of a waitress playing the piano would become so popular. Within a few hours after he posted the video on social media, thousands of people started watching it. By the next morning, the number had reached hundreds of thousands, and it was still growing fast. People from different parts of the country were amazed. Comments flooded in, praising Claire's talent. Many wrote that they were deeply moved by the music and wanted to know more about the girl behind the piano. Some people said they felt like they had witnessed something truly special and rare. The video was shared by music lovers, news websites, and even famous musicians who were impressed by her skill and the raw emotion in her playing. Back in the diner, Claire was unaware of the growing attention online. She continued her work as usual, quietly serving customers with the same gentle smile. However, it wasn't long before people in the town began talking about her differently. The regulars, who already liked Claire, now looked at her with a new sense of admiration. They started coming to the diner not just for the food but to see Claire and maybe, just maybe, hear her play again. Hank, the retired truck driver, was one of the first to bring it up. "Claire," he said one morning as he sat with his coffee, "you've got something special. The whole town knows it now. People are talking about you all over the internet." Claire smiled but didn't say much. She felt shy but also a little nervous. She hadn't planned for this kind of attention. To her, playing the piano was something personal, something she kept hidden. The diner manager, Mr. Roberts, saw the potential in Claire's talent. He started encouraging her to think about what she wanted. "Claire," he said, "this could be your chance. You have a gift that people want to hear. Maybe you should share it more." But Claire wasn't ready. The piano in the diner was old, and the place was small. She didn't think she could perform in front of a large audience or handle the sudden fame. Meanwhile, reporters from local newspapers and TV channels began visiting the diner. They wanted to interview Claire and learn her story, but Claire avoided them. She didn't want to talk about herself or her music. She was afraid that once people knew more about her, they would expect things she wasn't sure she could give. She was comfortable in her quiet life, even if it wasn't perfect. As the story about Claire spread, some of the townspeople who hadn't noticed her before began to see her in a new light. The diner became busier, filled with curious visitors who wanted to meet the piano waitress. Some even left money as tips, hoping to encourage her. Claire's co-workers cheered her quietly, but could tell she felt overwhelmed. In the middle of all this, Claire started to remember her past, something she had kept locked away for years. When she was younger, she was not just any pianist, she was a prodigy. From the age of 5, Claire had shown incredible talent for playing the piano. Her fingers moved effortlessly over the keys, and she could learn difficult pieces quickly. Her parents noticed her gift and invested in music lessons, sending her to a prestigious music conservatory in the city. Claire's life at the conservatory was intense. She spent hours practicing every day, learning from teachers who pushed her hard to be the best. She dreamed of becoming a famous pianist, performing on big stages all over the world. But life wasn't easy. At the same time, her family faced a heartbreaking tragedy. Claire's younger brother, Michael, who was her closest friend and biggest supporter, suddenly passed away due to an illness. His death shattered Claire's world. She stopped playing the piano for a long time. The music reminded her too much of Michael and the dreams they had shared. Claire left the conservatory and returned to her small town. She didn't talk about her past with anyone. Instead, she took the job at the diner and tried to live a quiet life. The piano in the diner was the only place where she sometimes played quietly, just for herself, without any audience. One day, a man arrived in the town who knew Claire from the conservatory. Professor Daniels was a respected music teacher who had taught Claire years ago. When he saw the video of Claire playing the piano, he was amazed. He sent her a message, praising her talent and expressing regret that she had stopped pursuing music. He wanted to reconnect and offer her a chance to play again in public. Claire was touched but also scared. The idea of returning to music after so many years was difficult. She wondered if she still had what it took to perform in front of others. The memories of her brother and the pain of losing him haunted her. But the support from her community and the professor's kind words gave her hope. At the diner, Claire's life was changing. More people came in every day, asking for her. The piano was no longer forgotten in the corner. Some nights, when the diner was quiet, customers would ask Claire to play again. She felt nervous but also a little happy. The music that had once brought her pain was starting to heal her. The townspeople began to realize that Claire was more than just a waitress. She was a hidden treasure, someone with a story of struggle, loss, and courage. They admired her strength and the beauty she brought through her music. As the weeks passed, Claire started thinking about what she wanted. The attention was overwhelming, but she knew she couldn't ignore the music inside her any longer. With the encouragement of the people around her, she began to practice more, slowly rebuilding her confidence. One afternoon, Claire sat at the piano in the diner and played a new piece she had written. The melody was soft and hopeful, filled with the emotions she had kept inside for so long. The customers listened, feeling the deep meaning in her music. Claire felt a small spark of joy she hadn't felt in years. The video of her first piano performance in the diner had opened a door, not just for the town to see her talent, but for Claire herself to start healing and dreaming again. The quiet waitress with the golden fingers was ready to face the world, one note at a time. After the video of Claire's piano performance went viral, the quiet town where she lived was suddenly buzzing with excitement and curiosity. What had started as a small moment during a power outage had now turned into a story that was touching hearts far beyond the town's borders. People everywhere were talking about the waitress who played the piano so beautifully that it left everyone awestruck. The day after the video was posted, Claire was still working her usual shifts at the diner, but she felt a strange mix of emotions inside her. She was nervous, shy, and a little overwhelmed by all the attention. At first, she didn't even want to watch the video herself. She was afraid of what people might say or think once they really got to know her. But the messages and comments kept flooding in, from strangers, music lovers, and even people from her own town. Most of the comments were kind and full of admiration. People praised her talent and the deep feeling she put into every note. Some wrote that they wished they could play like her. Others said the music gave them hope and comfort during difficult times. It was clear that Claire's piano playing had touched many lives. Back in the town, the diner became more popular than ever. Curious visitors came from nearby cities just to see the piano waitress they had heard about on the internet. The once quiet and sleepy diner was now filled with excitement and new faces. Many came hoping to hear Claire play again, but she rarely did. She still felt shy and unsure about performing in front of a crowd. The manager of the diner, Mr. Roberts, was thrilled by the new attention. He saw a big opportunity for Claire and for the diner. He wanted Claire to take advantage of her newfound fame and show her talent to the world. "Claire," he said one day, "this could be your chance to follow your dream. You've got something special and people want to see it. Don't hide it anymore." But Claire was hesitant. She had spent years hiding her talent, afraid of the past and the pain she associated with music. She had left the music conservatory years ago after a tragedy that had changed her life forever. The memories of her younger brother Michael, who had been her biggest supporter and had died suddenly, haunted her still. Music reminded her of both love and loss, and for a long time she had tried to forget it. While Claire struggled with her feelings, the video kept spreading. News websites picked up the story, and TV channels wanted to interview her. National newspapers wrote articles about her talent and her mysterious past. The whole country seemed fascinated by the story of the waitress with the golden fingers. Some talk shows invited her to perform live, and popular music critics praised her playing as both technically brilliant and deeply emotional. Claire, however, avoided the media. She felt uncomfortable being in the spotlight and didn't know how to tell her story to strangers. She worried that once people learned about her past and the reasons she stopped playing, they might see her differently or judge her. So she kept quiet, hoping the attention would fade. One day, a letter arrived for Claire at the diner. It was from Professor Daniels, her old music teacher from the conservatory. The professor had watched the video and was amazed by Claire's talent. He wrote that he still remembered her as one of the most gifted students he had ever taught. In his letter, he expressed regret that Claire had left music and invited her to reconnect, to come back to the world of music with his support. The letter moved Claire deeply. It was the first time someone from her past reached out to her with kindness and encouragement. The professor's words gave her hope, but also brought back painful memories. She thought about the hours she had spent practicing, the dreams she once had, and the brother who had always been by her side. Around the same time, Claire began receiving messages from her father, whom she hadn't spoken to in years. He was a former piano teacher who had been very strict and demanding when Claire was a child. His harshness had driven a wedge between them, and after Michael's death, Claire had stopped talking to him altogether. Now, seeing her fame, he wanted to reconnect, but Claire wasn't sure if she was ready. The people of the town were watching Claire closely. They admired her courage and wanted to support her, but they also wanted to give her space to heal. Hank, the retired truck driver, became one of her strongest supporters. He encouraged her gently and reminded her of the joy music had once brought her. "Claire," he said, "you got a gift that's bigger than this little town. Don't be afraid to let it shine." Inspired by the growing support, Claire decided to take a small step. She agreed to play a few songs during the town's upcoming charity event. It would be a chance for her to share her music without the pressure of a big crowd or cameras. She practiced quietly every day, slowly rebuilding her confidence as the charity gala approached. The excitement in the town grew. Tickets sold quickly, and people talked about the waitress who became a pianist. The local newspaper printed an article about Claire's journey and her decision to perform at the gala. The story touched many hearts and brought the community closer together. Claire felt a mix of nerves and hope. She knew that performing again would be difficult, but she also knew it was time to face her fears. She wanted to honor the memory of her brother and the dreams she had once held. The piano was no longer just an instrument. It was a way for her to express herself and connect with others. On the day of the gala, the community center was decorated with lights and flowers. The room was filled with friends, neighbors, and visitors from nearby towns. Claire sat quietly backstage, her hands trembling slightly as she waited for her turn. When it was finally time, the lights dimmed, and the audience fell silent. Claire walked to the grand piano and took a deep breath. She looked out at the sea of faces and thought about all the people who had believed in her, including her brother and her old music teacher. She placed her fingers on the keys and began to play. The music flowed effortlessly, full of emotion and strength. The audience was captivated. Some had tears in their eyes, others held their breath, lost in the melody. Claire's performance was a triumph. It was not just about technical skill, but about the story she told through her music, the pain, the hope, the courage to move forward. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. People stood up cheering and clapping for the waitress who had become a shining star. The gala marked a new beginning for Claire. She realized that her past did not define her. Her talent and determination could lead her to a brighter future. The support of her community, the encouragement from her old teacher, and the memory of her brother gave her strength. In the days that followed, Claire received more invitations to perform and teach piano lessons. She started to think about a life where music was not hidden but celebrated. The once quiet waitress was now ready to share her gift with the world. After Claire's performance at the charity gala, things in her life started to change in ways she had never imagined. The applause that filled the room was not just for the beautiful music she had played. It was for the courage she showed in facing her fears and returning to the stage after so many years. That night, Claire felt a warmth inside her heart that she hadn't felt in a long time. A feeling of hope and new beginnings. Word about Claire's performance spread quickly. The video of her gala performance was shared online and reached an even wider audience than before. People admired not just her talent but the story behind it. The story of a young woman who had given up on her dreams because of heartbreak but found the strength to rise again. Invitations to perform in other towns and cities began arriving. Music schools asked her to give guest lectures and workshops. Local radio stations wanted to interview her. Claire was still shy, but she started to understand that her music could inspire many people. Slowly, she began to accept the idea that she was no longer just a waitress, but a musician with a purpose. The first few public performances after the gala were small and quiet. Claire played in local community centers, libraries, and even some schools. She wanted to stay close to her town and the people who had supported her from the start. Each time she sat at the piano and played, she felt a little stronger and more confident. During this time, Claire also reconnected with Professor Daniels. The professor became her mentor again, helping her prepare for bigger performances and encouraging her to compose her own music. He believed in her talent and wanted to help her reach the potential he had seen in her years ago. One day, Claire received a surprising invitation from a famous concert hall in a big city several hours away. They wanted her to perform as a special guest during a classical music festival. It was an opportunity many musicians dreamed of, but for Claire, it felt overwhelming. The idea of playing on such a large stage in front of thousands of people terrified her. Yet, she knew she had to face this challenge if she wanted to move forward. With the support of her family, friends, and the professor, Claire agreed. She began preparing for the concert, practicing every day, learning new pieces, and composing some of her own music. The pressure was intense, but Claire found comfort in the piano keys. They were like old friends, helping her express everything she felt inside. As the day of the concert approached, Claire's nerves grew. She stayed in the city for a few days to rehearse and get used to the stage. The concert hall was grand and beautiful, with bright lights and a large audience waiting to hear her play. Claire remembered the little diner where it all began and felt a mix of excitement and fear. The night of the concert was unforgettable. When Claire walked onto the stage, the hall fell silent. She sat at the piano, took a deep breath, and began to play. Her fingers moved gracefully over the keys, filling the hall with rich, emotional music. The audience was spellbound, hanging on every note. During the performance, Claire's thoughts drifted back to her brother Michael. She played one of the pieces she had composed in his memory. The music was filled with love, loss, and hope. Many in the audience were moved to tears. They could feel the story Claire was telling through her music. After the concert, Claire was greeted with standing ovations and praise from critics and music lovers alike. She was offered more opportunities to perform and her career as a pianist was officially launched. Yet, Claire remained humble and grounded. She never forgot where she came from, the small town, the diner, and the piano that had started it all. Back home, the diner became a place of celebration. The townspeople were proud of Claire's success and felt like a part of her journey. They often invited her to play at local events and gatherings. Claire's music brought the community together and inspired many young people to follow their own dreams. Despite her growing fame, Claire kept her life simple. She continued to work part-time at the diner because it reminded her of her roots and gave her comfort. The piano in the corner was no longer dusty but polished and well cared for. Claire often played there during quiet moments, sharing her music with those who came in. Over time, Claire also started teaching piano lessons. She wanted to help others discover the joy of music and the power it had to heal and inspire. Many of her students admired her not just for her skill, but for her kindness and encouragement. One of Claire's biggest lessons was learning to forgive herself and others. She reconnected with her father and slowly repaired their relationship. They talked about their past mistakes and found a way to move forward. Music helped them heal old wounds and build a new bond. Claire also found love again. She met someone who understood her passion for music and supported her dreams. Together, they dreamed of a future filled with music, hope, and happiness. As Claire's story continued, she realized that her journey was not just about becoming a famous pianist. It was about finding her voice, healing her heart, and inspiring others to never give up on their dreams. The little waitress who once hid behind the counter had now become a symbol of courage and brilliance. Her music touched the lives of many, reminding them that even in the darkest moments, there is always a chance to shine. Claire's story was a beautiful reminder that sometimes life's greatest gifts come from the most unexpected places. Claire's journey had come a long way from that quiet evening when she first surprised everyone by playing the piano during the diner's power outage. Now, she was no longer just the waitress from a small town. She had become a true artist, with a growing audience and a heart full of hope. But the road to this place had been filled with challenges, lessons, and moments of deep reflection. After her big concert at the Grand Hall, Claire's life changed in many ways. She began receiving invitations to perform in different cities and even abroad. Music festivals, charity events, and even television shows wanted her to play. Yet, through all the excitement, Claire stayed humble and focused on what truly mattered to her: the music and the people who believed in her. Despite her success, Claire never forgot the diner where her love for piano had quietly grown. She continued to work there part-time, finding comfort in the familiar smells of coffee and pie, the chatter of regular customers, and the old piano in the corner. Playing the piano at the diner reminded her of where she started and kept her grounded. With time, Claire's music also took a new direction. She began composing her own pieces, inspired by the different experiences and emotions she had gone through. Each composition was like a chapter of her life, full of hope, sorrow, joy, and healing. Her music was no longer just notes on a page, but a story shared with her audience. Teaching became another important part of Claire's life. She loved working with children and young adults, helping them discover the joy of music. Her lessons were filled with patience and kindness, and many of her students admired not only her talent, but also her story of courage and perseverance. Claire believed that music had the power to heal, and she wanted to share that gift with as many people as possible. As her reputation grew, Claire was invited to speak at schools and community events. She shared her journey honestly, telling people about the struggles she had faced and how music had helped her through dark times. Her story inspired many to believe in themselves and never give up on their dreams, no matter how difficult life became. The relationship with her family also began to heal. Claire's father and she slowly rebuilt their bond, learning to understand and forgive each other. They found comfort in sharing music together, playing duets, and talking about the past without blame or regret. Claire's heart felt lighter with each conversation, and she was grateful for the chance to make things right. Love found its way back into Claire's life, too. She met someone who truly understood her passion for music and supported her dreams. Their relationship was built on trust, respect, and shared values. Together, they dreamed of a future filled with music, love, and happiness. This new chapter gave Claire even more strength to continue her journey. With growing confidence, Claire decided to organize a special concert in her hometown, celebrating her return and the support she had received from the community. The event was a huge success. The local theater was filled with friends, family, and fans who cheered as Claire played her heart out on stage. The concert was a reminder to everyone that dreams can come true, no matter where you start. Claire's music also began to touch the world beyond her town. Record labels showed interest in her work, and she was invited to record an album. This was a dream come true, but Claire was careful to choose projects that felt true to her spirit. She wanted her music to be honest and meaningful, not just popular. Through all the fame and success, Claire remained true to herself. She often thought about the lonely waitress who had once hidden behind the counter, afraid to share her gift. She knew that the real magic was not in the applause, but in the courage to be vulnerable and the willingness to keep going, no matter what. Her story became an inspiration for many, proof that talent combined with hard work, resilience, and heart could overcome even the toughest obstacles. Claire showed that sometimes life's greatest surprises come when you least expect them, and that the smallest moments can lead to the brightest futures. Looking back, Claire realized that music was much more than a career or a hobby. It was a way to connect with people, to heal wounds, and to celebrate life itself. She had found her voice, and through it, she touched the lives of countless others. As she continued to compose, perform, and teach, Claire never forgot the lessons she learned along the way about loss, love, hope, and the power of believing in oneself. Her story was a shining example of how brilliance can be found in the most unexpected places, and how a single moment of courage can change everything. Claire's journey was far from over, but she faced the future with a heart full of music and a spirit ready to shine. The waitress who once played piano in a quiet diner had become a beacon of hope and inspiration for everyone who heard her story. Her music, her courage, and her kindness would continue to inspire generations to come.